Okay, so we're back now. We've got the cockpit all nicely done. It's all dried off, ready to install. So moving on to part 4, which is the main rotor head. So I've already taken the liberty of getting part N1 off, and then we need to get the F fret, because a lot of the parts are off that. There we go. So here is the F fret. So what I'm going to do is take a moment and we'll take each of these pieces off in the sections they are, and then we'll get them assembled and see how it goes together. So give me a second to get some parts off, and then we'll have a look about to come back to get the glue on the go. Right, so move that forward, get some glue. Again, we're going to be using Mr. Cement S. So we've got part N1 all cleaned up. Then we've got part F51, which sits on top like that. Beautiful detail on it, really nice. And then we've got part F54, and it'll only go one way because it is keyed. And there we go. It's a little sloppy in the fit, but it should be okay. Now, if we don't push this all the way around, all the way down, so we can see there's a small recess. It should allow the glue perfect opportunity for the capillary action to go right around, and then we can press it home onto the base. There we go. And the same goes for 54. So just get the key in the right place, set him down. He will just lock in place. There we go. So there is a bit of movement on it, but just try and square them up, and then we drop a glue in the middle. That's all it needs. Doesn't need any more than that. So the next parts here are F61, 58, 59 and 60. So that's obviously the gearbox stays or whatever it is. So here's 58. And you want a good pair of sprue cutters for these parts. Really nice fine sprue gates, so the parts are coming off really nicely. But you wouldn't want to hack at this with a really heavy pair of tweezers, cutters. These Citadel cutters are really nice, and these are really quite old. I do have a brand new pair, but you know, I like to get the most out of what I'm using. So this is part 58 and this is part 59. So again, just take the scalpel and just gently tickle off the bit of nub that's there, and then with the edge of the blade, all we're doing is just scraping and removing any burr line that there might be on the part. We can do both inside and outside. Same again on this side, just gently tease away what's left of the nub. There we go. That's it. So this is 59. So it goes on the front. Supposing these parts are keyed, so they'll only go one way. So we've got good connection points on the feet. Small pair of tweezers. There we go. So get that pushed in. It seems a little all, but we're not going to glue these yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get all 4 parts on, and then we've got part 55 to go on top. Once we've got that together, we can see how it all goes and lines up before we commit to glue. So give me a moment, I'll get everything in order, and then we'll come back and glue it up. Okay, so we're back, and we have got the braces on, and then we've got the top piece here. So let's get some glue on these fellas. Now, these two are keyed, these two. So you can't get them the wrong way around. They're keyed on the top, and you can't get these the wrong way around either, as I found out, because the one I put here was slightly too long and the one I put here was slightly too short, so I'd swap them around by accident, and there's obviously a slight height differential if you look there on the rotor head, so it's obviously tilted slightly forward. So short one in the front, long one in the back. So they're all in, so drop of glue on the legs. Mr. Cement S seriously agrees with this plastic. It seems to work very, very well. And then we want to drop on each part here. And it's obviously going to make a very substantial rotor gearbox assembly. Now, if we look here, there's two there and there's two locating pins, and they're mirrored on this part here and here, so it's only one way it can go, and obviously it needs to go the right way because it's a keyed part for the next assembly to go on. So we want to, oh actually no, I tell a lie, it's not keyed, it could go anyway, but let's have a look and see. So if we orientate it that way, the keyed part is going out there, and these two parts here, yeah, so it is, it goes over there. So let's sit that on like so, and give it a gentle push, and that fits like an absolute treat. So let's get some glue on this fella here. So I'm going to glue on the ends, get a good strong bond there, and you'll find that the capillary action will wick in from each end to the center, and you end up with a really, really strong assembly. Splendid. If you need to, you can just give a squeeze of the tweezers just to nip it together to make sure it's fully bonded. There we go. So the next piece we are needing to do, by the looks of this, we've got this part done here first. It's a bit vague here. So obviously we're starting with this, we've done this, and the next part then is looking here. If you look from here to here, there's already these parts done. So I think what we need to do now is go to here and work on these parts to make up this assembly here, and then that assembly there's got all the control rods for the yaw, pitch and angle of attack for the rotor head. So if we start with these parts, actually no, we'll start with this part and then we'll do this part and then we'll bring them together. Doesn't matter which way you do it, but this one looks like it's, this part here is going on to this part, so we'll do this part first, which is this section, then we'll do that, and then that I think will constitute a significant amount of this here. So let me cut some parts out and we'll see what we get. Okay, so got this piece assembled here, so that's that assembly there, and then I'm working on this. Now the diagram's not brilliant, but it is reasonably self-explanatory. So I've got one side put together, so it looks like part 26, so you cut 23 and 26 off together, it looks like 26 goes to this side of the part here, when actually what they do is 23 goes on the outside and then 26 goes on the inside, and they squeeze together. Then you put this central cylindrical part, and then 25 and 24 the opposite side. Now obviously you need to put on parts 25 first. So if I can stop dropping it. They'll only go one way, and the outer parts are keyed. So you need to slip that over the cylindrical part there, okay, and it'll start to line itself up. Don't put any glue on just yet. And then get part 25, which is for the outside. Notice the key there on the end. So that then keys into that part there. So if we align that properly and put that in there, and this is the tricky bit, hold it with your thumb on the outside and then align them together. Now what we want to do is get a bit of glue on one section of it in there and gently squeeze together. There's a locating pin in there that locates this corner together, so as long as we get one section together we're all right. Now what we can do is we can come in, you'll notice the gap. If we put a drop of glue in there and a glue on the end of the cylindrical part, and with the tweezers just gently squeeze it together. There we go. That will then locate itself, and then we can gently squeeze the whole assembly together. And that's how that goes together. So it's quite a delicate part, and there is a bit of play in it. So you can just sight it and get both parts even as you look down it that way. So that's that part there, and that's that part there. This part's quite simple. You've this main piece here and this main piece on the top, and then you've got a central piece here and two outside arms that come together, and it glues on here in the middle. So there's your outside arm, there's your outside arm. They glue either side on small nubs. And what you must do is make sure you get the kink of this control arm kinking off to the right, and you can see that on this part of the picture here. So this part then should, and this is the interesting bit, it should go together with this part here, but again I'm not just too sure. Okay, so this part then goes in, so that part locates in there by the looks of it. Yep, or it's supposed to locate in there, and then those parts are supposed to connect onto there, I think. Anyway, I'm gonna come off camera and play to get this together, and then we'll look at getting the whole assembly together, because this obviously fits in with the main shaft and this yaw and pitch control yoke. So give me a minute and we'll get back, and once I've got the assembly figured out. Okay, so what we've got here is, what I made the mistake is I glued this part flat level when it actually needs to be more elevated up. You've got housing there and housing there, and they actually locate on in those two areas there. So those hook underneath there, there we go, like so, and that control comes up. So that hooks under there, there. So that's a good positive fit, and then that control comes up to meet this. And I tell you something, these instructions are bloody awful because they're on the wrong way around. So give me a moment to rectify the wrong way around. Hold on. Yeah, the instructions really aren't that good here. So just give me a moment to sort this out, and then I will come back and we can get this done. Actually sure how that goes. Yeah, okay, give me a moment and we'll get it sorted out and we'll come back. Okay, so finally got it together, and it's a bit of a hash up. So these arms need to be swapped around. So you can see that these pins here come and then they glue in on the inside of this. So the way you do it, if you do it following the instructions way, that's on the outside and they won't marry up. So and then obviously because I had to take it apart, then I've damaged this part here, but it is glued together. I'll be able to give this a quick clean up. But yeah, it's a bit frustrating, to be quite honest with you. Needs to be, it could have been explained a lot better. So really the plastic's great on this kit, but the instructions are letting it down. Now this will only go one way on here. So those two holes there marry up to these two pins here, and that just sits on the gearbox top there like that. Right, so now they're going on about fixing in these control levers. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is get this part of the, I think it's called a squash plate, I might be wrong, but I'm going to get the main rotor assembly, like the hub, in so I can line up all this and get this in the right position. So I'll cut these parts off and we'll come back and have a look how it goes together. Okay, so yeah, this is a challenge. That's how we're going to put this. So we've got the main rotor hub, we've got this assembly here. Now, this assembly here I think can actually get glued to the support structure. So drop a glue, locate the pins and push it home. Right, now the next one is we've got part 52, which is not to be glued, part 44, and then we've got the two parts F43 and F7, and then you've got two A46s. But this is where it gets tricky, I think, although it might not be as tricky as I think it's going to be. Yeah, so F7 locates on the side. Now we've rotated this 180 degrees, so we've got this up right here. So F7, that part there, locates onto this part here. If I do that on the side, you'll see it. Yeah. So there's the upright. So F7 locates there. And the tricky thing is with this, is we need to actually put a very small amount of glue on F7 without gluing F52. F7 glues to the stanchion, the upper stanchion, and then this part needs to be able to move, which, yeah, I've just made an absolute... This is not easy at all. It's quite a complicated construction, but we can work around it. So if we look at this, the orientation of this part to F7 is roughly like so. So we can move that around there, get F7 glued in there, and then we can then look at part F43. Now, in bringing part F43 together, we've got to put A46 in. So that's these two pieces here. Again, it's quite difficult to see how the hooks are orientated because you've got one end you've got an eye and the other end you've got a hook. The eyes pop on nicely, and I'm assuming if we put them, judging by the picture, they look like they're both orientated the same way. So put them on like that, and then we'll bring so not easy. Bring these parts together first, then maybe. So we're working upside down now. Pair of tweezers, and we'll just bring these in. So open up a slight hair, and then get that locked in there. Right, that's one side in. I want to leave them loose so I can get them located properly on the lower part of the hub when we get to it. Same again for this side, so loosen it off, get it on the pin, slide it together. Right, now we can glue that part together. There, right. We'll put some glue on the end pieces when we get slotting them home. So that now then locates down through the center. Okay, so we have got the rotor hub assembly. So we've glued parts F43 and F7 together, and we've captured A46 on either side, and we've slotted it down. Now you'll see where F7 joins the upright here, which is part F42, and that is quite a good solid joint. Unfortunately we're needing to do a bit of rectifying because the instructions are so bad. These parts here, so that's A46, actually need to face the other way. Now, because we didn't glue them, should be able just to take the tweezers, bend that out, take that out, there, turn them through 180 degrees, okay, and then squeeze it back together. That's why sometimes it pays not to glue everything up straight away, purely because you might have to fix a problem, which we've just had to do. So we'll do the same on this side. Find the right one to bend out. There we go, bend it out, part out. And these are so fragile, you can see it's bending under the strain. Really fragile parts, and the plastic's a little bit soft. It's reminiscent of Airfix plastic actually, although the detail itself is really nicely molded, but it doesn't help when you're a ham-fisted guy like me. So if we hold that the right way up, and let's get this orientated the right way, so we need that to be facing, the opening to be facing away from F7, and that is the correct way there. So we'll just get that teased back in. Open. And don't worry if this just doesn't look like it's set, if it's closed up properly, because when we come to put some glue on it, it'll soften the plastic and we'll be able to bond it up nicely. So we've got those changed around, so we can relocate the mast back in to the gearbox. A little push jack, firm push down, a bit springy. We'll sort all that out. So that part, then A46 goes in nicely there. So we can start thinking about gluing this all together. So we'll put a drop of glue here, and we'll put some there, and we'll also get some on the seat of the mast, because it is time it's going to get glued in, because before we glue all this together then it's not going to come out. So get that in there, drop of glue there, drop of glue on the mast. And it's really debatable how much of this you're actually going to see once it's all in the fuselage. We'll have a look at that when we get it together. We'll give it a test fit. So I actually don't think you're going to see very much of it at all. So nip that up, get a squeeze, get the plastic to bond, handbrake. Well, there you go. So you really do need to be careful with this because it's very fragile. As you can see, I've managed to annihilate it. However, just goes to show I'm only human. So pop that back in there, realign it, drop more glue, and that was me breaking that just purely for using too much pressure. Thankfully no one's going to see it. There we go. So mast's home, it's nice and tight, nice and firm. Drop of glue on this side here, gently squeeze this side. There we go. I want to squeeze that part down there so we can hook in there, squeeze the top. That is going nowhere. Excellent. So that's the bulk of the mast assembly done, and we have this rotor head in the position it should be in. And now what we need to do is, hopefully I didn't get most of that out of the picture, but yeah, now what we need to do is get parts F19, 20, 21 in place. So I shall go and get them, and they obviously locate there and they locate here. There's 3 locating points, so we've got here, here and here. So we'll get those parts cut off and we'll get them put on. So give me a minute and we'll come back. Okay, so we are back, and there we go. There is all the control rods in. Now I had to do a little bit of trimming down here on this rod. Whether the position of this is slightly off, I don't know, but this was too long, so trimmed down a little to fit, but that's fine. This rod went in okay, and this rod was okay too. So there is the finished hub assembly. Now there is a tiny bit of burring in some of these parts, but I usually find when you've got small parts like this, fragile parts, sometimes it's best to get it all together and then go over it with a fine sand and sponge just to clean it all up. But it's very rigid, it's absolutely going nowhere, so it certainly will support the rotor head. But what we can do now, we've got this, is let's see how much of it we're going to see. So we get the sides now. This piece goes in there like so. Okay, and then we can get the cockpit I've already made up without knocking the camera too much, and we can fit the cockpit in those locating marks there, and then we'll get the other side and it just closes up, and we'll be able to see we've got plenty of room to look underneath. Very positive fit for the gearbox housing, and then we can close up on the cockpit, and that, just check the fit underneath. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's good that side, so it's good both sides. So we got that there, that closes up there, nice firm clicks, tail clicks together, and there we go. So you can see there how much you're going to see. You can actually see a fair bit of this. Obviously we've got a few bits and pieces to go over here, and we've got the engines to go on next to it, but you are going to see a fair bit. So I was wondering how much we're going to have to paint, but it was going to be worth our while to paint the inside, check the references and see what colour. I think it'll be yellow chromate inside, and then we'll need to check to see what all this gear is painted like, so we can do a bit of detail and work and really bring it to life. But there we are. So that's the rotor head assembly and the cockpit test fitted into the fuselage, and I have to say it looks amazing. It really does. This is a seriously impressive kit. There are a few letdowns on it. The instructions are really difficult to follow, to be honest. I've made a few mistakes purely because the instructions aren't very clear, and there's a little bit of flash in some of the parts I've noticed. Nothing that doesn't clean off with a swipe of a scalpel, so it's really not a problem, so I'm not going to berate them for that, but I am marking Takom down on this kit purely for the instructions and the vagaries in it. They could have spent a little more time putting a little more detail in, making it easier for the modeler to get it together in one take. But there we are. So I'm going to move on to painting the rotor head, and then we'll seriously be considering sticking these fuselage shafts together permanently and moving through the build. So until next time, happy modelling and take care.